Hi everybody, it's Brittany and I'm from Group 1 and this is this week 7 moderator response. Moderator video of all of our thoughts. Okay, so to start off, we talked about the Shin article, and our group had very different views on the Shin article. Me personally, I don't think it did a good job at thinking like an ecosystem. It seemed limited and didn't explore beyond, for instance, like New York City. Because I think that thinking like an ecosystem, you have to think beyond your small set, like your area. You have to think bigger and much, much smaller, and how all of the layers affect the whole. Such as like the individuals, the community, the United States, the world. So, and I also think that over the 5-year time frame, when they interviewed them 5 years later, that's 5 years of research that could have been done to understand different things that the people and the families had to go through in order to get to the point where they had apartments to live in. Alex thought that the title was very specific, and that when it comes to the research, the inclusion of the abstract on the very first page was very helpful, because it was convenient, and if you were just doing a research, searching for different articles, it kind of lets you know everything right up front, then you can move on. So it's a time saver in a way. And he also thinks that because it was published in the American Journal of Public Health, that it is a very credible source, so he'd feel comfortable using it for his own personal knowledge and for whatever may be needed. Christy actually took a different approach and connected the the article to the Pralatinsky and Nelson article that we read a few weeks ago about quantitative and qualitative research. She points out that the Shin article used quantitative methods to give a voice to the disadvantaged, and given the context, understanding of their experience. So I'm really glad that she pointed that out, because that was a completely different perspective that we all took. Collectively, we think that when conducting research, it's impossible to do so without thinking like an ecosystem. We must understand the importance of the ecological levels and how they interact with one another over time. Also, while conducting community research, we need to be aware now of our actions and how they may affect or disturb the natural state, and, for instance, like the village and a DDT. Even so far as to when they had to change the roofs for the villagers, and how it affected their personal lives, not being able to sleep and getting used to the noise when it rains. So thinking like an ecosystem is a more open-minded form of research when it comes to the systems and processes and their impacts. There's a lot of gray area that isn't always considered as far as their cause and effects. Lastly, we talked about a few different things as far as our individual, like how to think like an ecosystem as far as individually. Christy talked about a project she worked on as far as low-income family and their overall utility bills, because during hotter and colder months they weren't able to pay their bills. My example was opening and running a brand new restaurant, so trying to make it successful and the different components it takes to run and maintain that. And Alex spoke about his personal experience and looking back and understanding all those factors of poverty when he was younger, and how they contributed, and how outside things contributed to that, and not necessarily just because, oh, we don't have money. So I think that the most important aspect of all of these, and I'm sure other groups and like all of our individual viewpoints, is that when you think about like an ecosystem, it can be used in almost every situation and every aspect. Poverty, domestic violence, if you wrote a book, how it will affect others, creating programming, running a business, education, just it just makes a lot of sense. It doesn't necessarily have to be when solving a problem. It can be when creating something. Like, for instance, my example with running a business. There are different layers of it. There are different people involved. There are different aspects and things to make something flow correctly. And just like any of the examples that were used, like, just any little thing can affect the balance and affect it and change it and grow it or break it or whatever. So sorry about the phone. That's all I have for this week, and I apologize for the phone. So tell me what you all think.